Sometimes you find yourself in a situation where people ask you questions or they say statements that you were not prepared for. And when you look at the essence of the question or the statement, you find that, but this one is getting into my personal space. But the challenge with some of us, because we are caught off guard, we immediately volunteer information that we should not be sharing with other people. It is important really to keep certain things confidential because they are important to you and they are not things that should be for public consumption. So in this video, I'm going to unpack at least 7 of those questions or statements that I believe should be kept part of your arsenal. It's not something that you should be sharing willy-nilly with anyone. And let me hasten to say, it does not mean that everyone who asks you these questions or say the statements, they've got malicious intent. Sometimes people are just nosy. Sometimes people just want to know for the sake of knowing. But even if that is the case, it does not mean you need to go out of your way and just volunteer everything to everyone. When they give you a bait, it does not mean that you've got to cash it. So keep the lines clear so that you do not give more than is required. The first question that I was asked was, how much do you earn? Context is important, especially in the South African context and also in the Black family context, where, once people know how much you earn, it increases chances of them depending on you for everything. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't help people, but I'm saying don't put yourself in a situation where people will constantly expect you to do things for themselves because you earn a certain amount of money. Because once you start helping people and you give them something, you already set a tone in terms of what you're going to give to them, and they will expect that consistently that's what should be coming. I don't fall into the trap of telling people how much I earn for that particular reason. Even some of the big guns that on YouTube or everywhere, they will tell you that this is how I came to earn a 6-figure salary or 6-figure income, but they will not tell you the rents and cents thereof, because I think that is because salary is something that is confidential. It's not for somebody, for everybody to know about it. You are not listed on the Johannesburg Exchange for people to know how much you earn. Number 2, how much do you pay to, say, your property? How much do you pay to your car? It is linked to the first one because people start to take out their calculators or they do the math in their heads. Oh, he pays or she pays this amount to the car. He or she pays this amount to the house. He or she pays this amount to the couches in the house. If he or she can do all these things, it means this person has got money. So it also has got the same effect and impact like I just explained on the salary of people wanting to know how much you pay to something. And they now start to create this dependency cycle that is not going to come to an end. So those two factors are so much related. You don't necessarily have to go into providing answers into those. Sometimes when people ask me how much I pay towards my car, I just say, yo, it's an arm and a leg. Or I just say, you don't want to know, and I just leave it there because I don't feel that I'm obliged to tell people that. If they want answers to those questions, like for example the house, the car, they can go into Google and start to search as to if you've got this amount of, you buy this amount of house, this is what you could potentially pay. It's not up to me to tell. Some information is as public as that. They can go and do their own Google search. But because I know people sometimes wants to learn through secondhand, they will not go into Google to search for that. The third question that I found quite intrusive in my space was, why did you get divorced? And let me be honest with you, at the beginning of the divorce process, after the divorce has ended, I felt into that. I think I found myself emotionally vulnerable, and I would go into talking about, expressing why this and this and that. But then very soon I realized that, but it's none of their business. It's none of their business. And in a divorce, there are two people involved. So I'll be talking about my side. The other party is not here to talk about their side. So I thought of, but why should I get into this space? But let me tell you, I also learned the power of the quote of Eleanor Roosevelt when he said that small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, but great minds discuss ideas. And I realized that with that question, that people with small minds wants to know the detail, and they even go to the extent of starting to take a position and judgment. Because some people would ask me, "What did you do to her?" And I would got struck and say, but how does this person come to the conclusion that I did something to the other party? But great minds will always say, hey, it's challenges of life. Probably there's something that you learn out of this process. If you go ahead with your life, maybe you know what things to do and what things not to do. What a contrast. Instead of somebody who wants to get into the juicy details about what you did to somebody, what did they do to you, what happened, all of those juicy stuff that people want. So I never even now fall into the trap of explaining myself why that process happened. I just said it happened. It's part of life. I'm going ahead with life, and I don't entertain that. Equally related to that, question number 4 is, now that you are divorced, when are you going to get married? You are getting older. Please aren't you thinking of getting married? And I also don't entertain that question. I take my time with my partner and we are enjoying life. It is not for the other people to know. It is for us to know and for them to imagine. That's the approach that I take to that particular question, because it is something that it is between us as a party. And like I said at the beginning of this video, some people don't ask because they want to be intrusive. And again, it depends who it is. There are people within our circles, there are people within our family that we even talk to and then we plan together. But any other one, it's none of your business. You don't have to get into it. And you don't even have to ask me whether I'm going to get married again. Number 5. I find this also very intrusive. Especially in social circles, and I've spoken about some of these things on TikTok before, but I just wanted to bring them together. But point number 5, why don't you drink today? Or why don't you drink alcohol? There is what we call adult peer pressure. I've done a video about adult peer pressure before. Please check it on this channel. And I don't understand why people don't just become comfortable with that decision for that day and continue drinking, and leave people who don't want to drink that day, or people who don't want to drink at all. Because once you entertain that question, you get yourself into the defensive, and then they will put a lot of questions up to a point where you want to feel guilty about your decision not to drink. You've got a reason as an adult why you don't drink. So why then do you put yourself in a situation where you've got to answer to strangers sometimes why you don't drink? And there's a statement that says alcohol is one of those drugs where people will make you feel guilty for not taking it, but any other drug is frowned upon. Your decision not to drink is your decision. You don't want to feel socially accepted just because you're drinking, and then you might end up drinking just because you want to please other people. And here's the question, and I don't even pose it back because I don't want to get into the discussion. You don't ask people why they drink. Why then do they ask you as to why do you drink? And it is for that reason that I do not entertain such questions. It is your decision not to drink, and be comfortable with that decision. Point number 6. And with this one, it is also the way the question is being asked. Did you lose weight, or is there something? You know, a couple of years back, I used to weigh at the time around 86. I'm back to 85 kg now, but I think I was at around 86, 87 kgs and the like. And then I went to this dietitian and I chose a low carb regime, and I lost weight like woo. I was wearing a size 34 on my waist at that time. I even went to something like 30 very, very quickly. And I also did not like my weight when I did the contrast between the weight I used to have and the weight I have now. And people will just come and say, "Are you sick? What's happening? Why did you do this to yourself?" Like I said, some were out of concern, some were just plain nosy. And yes, just like the beginning of everything, we learn from experiences, isn't it? And I would entertain some of those questions. But the more you are asked about something, the more it becomes monotonous, it becomes boring. And I said, but I'm the one who know why I decided to go on this diet regime. I know how it was impacting my health, and I'm the one who knows about it. So why should I go to why do I feel a need to respond to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's asking me this question? But let me be honest, I would answer, even all of these questions I've already spoken about, I would answer to those people that I believe they would benefit from the answer. But just willy-nilly, I would stay away from that question, especially for those people who would assume that there's a chronic sickness that I have just picked on the road. They would just like to know if maybe I have got a chronic illness, and I would stay away from answering that question. Last one. When are you having kids? Why don't you have kids? Might seem innocent, and it seems innocent in most cases, especially in our black families. But I also stay away from that question. And I encourage anyone to stay away from that question, because this is a deep-seated question for some people. There's somebody who's close to me who has gone through 4 miscarriages, and I can see his head when you talk about children. But over time, I think he has learned to deal with it, and I feel for people that are going through challenges that are beyond their control. And imagine if you just come and ask that person that type of question, or other family members come with their children and he's the only one who does not have children, and you start asking those questions. It is not your space to get into those questions. So I'm saying to you, don't feel obliged to answer questions that people put to you just because they have been asked. It does not mean that every question that is being asked deserves an answer. Brush it off. You don't have to be rude. Brush it off. Get a way to just avoid the question. Don't get yourself mired into things that you should not have been mired into in the first place. And as on the other side of the coin, if you are that person, be mindful. Don't get into spaces and start asking people questions that do not even bother you. There are certain questions I did not touch on, like statements like, "Oh, these kids are not like, they don't even look like you." There are people who make such funny statements in front of spouses. And, "Oh, these kids are not even like you." Or they ask questions that involves intimate stuff between spouses. It's not for them to ask certain type of questions. So be careful to protect your boundaries, because your privacy is your gold, and you need to protect your privacy as much as you can. If you like this content, please join me as we continue to cultivate personal mastery, self-worth, and leadership in others. And we are going to continue to do it in the next week. And as you join today, don't leave without subscribing, and don't forget to press that notification button so that next week, 5 p.m. SA time, that you don't lose the important video that will help you to grow and become a great version of yourself. Until the next one, thank you.